right, so welcome, Amelia. Are you ready to talk tech?
Yes, I am ready to talk tech.
All right, awesome. Let me tell you, this is a topic that I have been repeatedly asked to cover. So I know you have people on the edge of their seats already and you haven't even started. So no pressure, no pressure. So let's start by explaining some of these terms that we're going to be using. This episode, of course, is talking about managing your content. So you've got gated content and you've got ungated content. So can you explain what those two things are and why somebody would want gated versus ungated?
Yes, absolutely. So gated content is, you can think of it as something that you don't want to be publicly visible immediately, whether that's to the search engines, whether that's people coming to your website. Ungated, on the other hand, would be things that you want accessible. People can easily find it online, through social media, through Google, navigating your website. In regards to what types of content you want to fall into either of those categories, let's start with ungated. So ungated would be things that you want accessible in order to bring in more readers to your website, more prospects, current customers, investors, anybody like that. So things that are basic components of a website, such as your homepage, your blog, your product and your offer pages, your about page, definitely your contact page. So things that just seem, hey, this is part of the normal part of a website. I want this to be available. Things that you would want to hide behind some sort of gate, which we'll get into later, would be things that you want accessible only to your members. So if you have some sort of forum, if this is a club website, if it's exclusive content that people need to opt into based off of signing up for an email or paying a membership fee, you want to make sure that you keep those things behind what we'll refer to as a gate, because that makes sure that people that are current members don't later find the content and then think, oh, I could have just gotten this for free, right. As well as it really ensures that people who aren't members realize, okay, if I want to see this, I'm going to have to opt in the various ways that you ask them to do that. Other things that should be gated would be things like thank you pages, or what could be termed goal completion pages. So that could refer to the thank you page that you show after someone signs up for your email list or after they subscribe to your blog. Those pages tend to be pretty thin content, which means there's not a lot of words on the page, and so Google doesn't find those very interesting and they don't want to index things like that. And you don't want pages like that to be showing up in Google instead of important pages like your home page. Other things that could be good for that would be if you're doing some sort of promotion, maybe via email, and you're A/B testing two different customer segments against each other. So you want to see, how will this promotion perform versus another promotion? In those scenarios, you wouldn't want both available because, like we were referring to earlier regarding members finding content they could have gotten for free, you don't want people to think, oh, well, I thought this promo was the only one available and now there's apparently two. What caused this? It just creates a lack of trust that you want to avoid.
Right. Okay. So, and an A/B test is where you have some kind of information. It could be an offer. Maybe you're testing the price. It could be a headline. It could be there's something different about each of those. We'll just call them pages, right?
Yeah.
Something different about each of those pages. And you have set your system up so that one person gets one page, the next person gets the other page, and then hence the A/B, right, in the test. A/B.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. It refers to trying, ideally an A/B test, you keep everything on the page the same except for one variable, like you listed the headline or the way the page is laid out. Multivariate testing would refer to if you had multiple elements on the page that you were changing.
Okay, great. So let's start thinking about different elements that are going to be gated and ungated. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the big one, of course, is the opt-in gift, right? And that's probably what what most people are most concerned about, right? They know that they've got to create an opt-in gift. They go to all this trouble to create it, and then, man, they somehow set it up wrong, and it becomes open to the search engines, right? So that's a problem. So we know that you need an email service provider, right? Because that's going to actually create the box, the mechanism for somebody to opt in. It's going to put them on a list, capture their email address, and then through the magic of technology, it releases an autoresponder system, right? It triggers whether you call that drip content or that sort of thing. And we've had an episode in the past, I'll include in the show notes, that talks about email service providers and that sort of thing. So you'll have that episode to refer back to. So okay, you've got that system, and now you've got your gift.
Yes.
Right? So the gift has to go somewhere, right? So that it can become a download.
Yes.
So I know that there's Amazon, right? Amazon S3 is a place where you can store stuff. I think people use Dropbox. How do you decide where to keep this tool? Let's talk about that first. How do you decide where is that going to live?
Mm-hmm. So I always go with the option of, if possible, hosting it on your own website and adding the markup, which I'll explain, to keep it from being indexed in Google. The reason why I'd vote in keeping it on your own website to host it, say it's a PDF, a white paper, some sort of ebook, is that way you own the content. So if over time this is no longer an opt-in gift, maybe it's a little bit outdated, or you have something way juicier that you're offering, you can then change the markup to make it publicly available, and that will help boost your SEO because you have some more content related to your business, or it's another avenue for customers to come in.
Right.
That's why I would do that. And most content management systems and websites allow you to, create a page that hosts a PDF or upload it through, your media library if you're in WordPress, for example. The other benefit, once you have it up there, is you can easily tag the content. And so we'll have a post on the HostGator blog that you can put in the show notes that will walk through exactly what you need to type in to do this. But it's basically adding a tag to your code that is called a no index tag. It's a one line, type meta name equals robots, content no index. There's some shark teeth on either end of that, shark mouth, if we remember those from elementary school math, and some quotation marks. But you can copy and paste that into what's called the header tag of the page.
Okay.
And so that sounds very complicated, but I promise that when you see it in a blog post explained to you, it's a copy and paste referencing your URL.
So let's try and divide these up a little bit. So you have WordPress, which many people use, right? And HostGator provides WordPress exclusive hosting. But so you have the media library in WordPress. So let's start with maybe a PDF download, right?
Okay.
So would it be as simple as uploading to your media library, putting the link on a page, and do you then have to, like, how does that get classified as no follow? The whole page is no follow, and then the link just happens to then be protected?
Yes, the latter option that you just gave. So you upload it in WordPress, for example, upload it through your media library. When you upload something to your media library, you're usually looking at, does it look okay? But one of the fields will show the URL for that piece of media. Right. And so on that URL, that is where you will need to add the no index tag. There is an even easier option than going in and manually adding the code. So let's talk about that now that So see, now everyone's happy because it's a little bit easier than we thought. So there's plenty of plugins you can use. I've used on my own blogs something called the Yoast Seo Plugin.
Right.
When you use that, you can easily, it's as simple as flipping a switch from index to no index in that plugin. You're literally just pushing a button, and when you do that for that piece of content on that page, it will tell Google, it will add the tag automatically to the PDF, the URL that the PDF is hosted on, and then Google will say, oh, okay, so we don't need to worry about this piece of content. We're not going to put it in our index.
Okay, so when you just have something uploaded to the media library, is it automatically protected? Like everything in that library is protected unless it goes into something else? Or I think that's a little puzzling as well.
Yeah, so I mean, typically if you upload it to the media library but you don't link to it anywhere, you don't, if it's an image, post it on any pages, it's just going to live in your WordPress database.
Okay, and be exposed to the search engines?
No, it won't be exposed because you've uploaded it, but you haven't really published it or referenced it anywhere.
Okay. So that protects that document, and then once there's a link in text somewhere on a page, then the document kind of gets unlocked unless you put this tag on there and say don't index. Is that
right? It's when you refer to it once it's published, and then that's when you need to make sure that's when you need to make sure that you're telling Google, we don't want to index this.
Okay. Okay, great. Now another way that people do this, upload content, as I mentioned, is through Amazon, right? S3 account. Can you talk about that, or is that something that is you would rather defer to some other Amazon expert maybe?
I think it might be better to defer, but I would be pretty confident in saying most of these tools have the ability for you to say, we want this to be indexed, or we want this to be a private file, because that's one of the when you're thinking of the core things people need in hosting files online, that's one of them. Do I want this publicly available or not?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what if somebody does not use WordPress? What would be another good way for them to upload and protect a piece of content?
So I think it would be very similar. It's just that instead of using the terminology of you would go in through the media library, you would go in however you upload your media in that content management system. Okay.
And the whole point of this is that tag, right? The little piece of code. So that's what you really need. And you need someone, whoever is doing this, and ideally you are paying someone to manage your site and to do this stuff for you. And I think that really is the ultimate message here. Your time is not best spent figuring out how to add code to your site.
No.
Your time is best spent figuring out what that giveaway is and let somebody else deal with it, right?
Yeah. And I would say, so this is one of those things where, not to frighten people, but if you add that code to a page on your site that you want accessible, like your home page, it can be temporarily catastrophic for your SEO because your homepage won't be searchable in Google. It could cause problems like that. So fortunately, there are a lot of people who are well-versed in adding the code and know what to do. In these situations, you can find them on, like a neighborhood list. These people are everywhere. On LinkedIn, someone in your connections is going to know how to do this, and so better to just ask somebody.
And sometimes it can be as easy as a VA, right? A VA who manages your site, that person can handle this for you. So you may not need to escalate to the point where you need a developer to do this kind of stuff. So I think that's part of this issue, is understanding the roles people play and who do you then need to have to be able to solve the particular problem that you're dealing with.
Right. Yeah. And what's important to note when you do things like this is a very simple ask. This is something that takes someone a few minutes to do, and then test, make sure it's working. But yeah, outsource it if you can. You have better things to be spending your mental energies and creativity on.
Yeah, and if you are not somebody who learns technology easily, or you're just learning the language of website maintenance and that sort of thing, and the opt-in in general, or those sorts of things, don't make yourself crazy. Don't add to your own stress level because it'll take you a couple of hours where, it took this person 5 minutes.
Right. Absolutely.
So you really have to start thinking about using your time wisely. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of gated content. So there are some times when you might have an actual PDF or some kind of larger document, and in the generosity of your heart, you want to make that open access, right? You've got the SEO benefit of having that document. I once did a glossary of terms.
Oh, yeah, those are great.
Came out, right? Oh, yeah, they're awesome.
Great, yeah.
Right. Easy SEO win, do a glossary of terms. So I wanted to make that available because I wanted the SEO benefit more than I wanted to use it to build a list.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about that strategy, about having some enticing open access, ungated content, and then having somebody go, oh, well, I got to opt in for this stuff?
Yeah. So I like that. There's a couple of different ideas I have regarding the strategy of doing that. So one is you give people perhaps a preview of the content, right? So let's take your glossary example. You show them page 1 of the glossary. That's searchable by Google. They see, oh, this looks like a glossary related to this. When people search for a glossary, we should direct them to this page. It gets shared on Twitter, on Facebook. But after page 1, they would need to opt in. So if you did something like that, you would really just have page 1 searchable, and then maybe you just have it as a piece of content. It's not even in a PDF form. And then you say to download the full guide, and you have a link at the bottom. People can opt in, or they share on social media, and then it unlocks a download form, whatever you want to do. Some of the other ways to do that regarding sharing content would be if you wanted to have maybe one piece like the glossary, but then there's other related content that's really valuable and you can present as a giveaway. So in that example, let's say you have the glossary, and it's maybe in what we're talking about here, it's a glossary of all these different tags that you would want to use to mark up your site for gated or ungated content. And then after people read that, you have some opt-in forms at the end of the page that say, hey, are you interested in learning more? Download our guide for the top 10 best types of gated content. And that's an ebook that is related to what they were looking for, but then they have to opt in. And then the third idea I would mention would be if you want the actual glossary to be gated in this example, but you still want to get the SEO benefit of speaking to the keywords that are contained in that glossary, your landing page that you use to download the ebook can be publicly accessible, and you can talk there about the value you'll get out of it, maybe mention 1 or 2 of the keywords, and it's sort of an overview summary of what's in there without all the individual details.
Great. Okay, super. So let's talk about just the different pieces here. We're going to focus specifically on the opt-in gift again now, just to make sure that we're clear on, we're clearly explaining how this works. So you decide on what is your most desirable opt-in, right? Your audience's most wanted giveaway, right? What are they going to give their email address for?
Right.
You're going to create that thing, which can be anything. It can be a PDF, it can be a video, it can be an email series, can be, so that's part of the thought that has to happen, right, is what am I going to share, and then what's the best format for that. Right? So we're going to talk in terms of say, a PDF. So that gets uploaded to, you recommend your website. And I think that's an interesting point, because a lot of people recommend using some other platform, and the concern and the problem that I've had is that then those other platforms are inadvertently set to somehow be easily accessed by the general public and the search engines. Right? I had an Amazon account, and I had a document uploaded in there that was supposed to be a gift for people who had bought something else, right? And I had somebody tell me, hey, I found this document, and I don't think you wanted it exposed, and I didn't.
Oh, boy.
So, right. So, I just told myself, boy, let's hope that not too many other people find that particular piece of content through the magical, the magical placement of the search that she did. So I think that's an interesting point, because a lot of people really do say, oh, you got to have an Amazon account. But an Amazon account is not as easy to manage as your website is.
Right. I always feel like if you can, keep it as close to your control as possible, and that's the value of having it on your website. If you're dealing with Amazon or anyone else, it's another service. You have to hope that they're working, that there's not a bug. And there can be bugs on your website, but if there's a bug on your website, you call up your web host or your IT person and they help you out. Amazon, they've got, they're working on it, but you may not be able to fix it immediately.
Right. And I can tell you, because I've actually been trying to have this episode, I swear, since I started the show. Honestly, honestly, I know that sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I have, in all honesty, I have wanted to have this subject covered, because people, honestly, they were been asking me before I started the show. When somebody found out that I was starting the show, one of the things they would always say, well, will you please explain how this works to me, because I don't get it. So I have been, my show's anniversary will hit its 1 year mark, the first Monday in January.
Congratulations.
Thank you. This is the first time I'm covering this content. So what does it tell you? It tells you that's how hard it's been for me to find somebody who would talk about it.
Oh, gosh.
Right? Which I think is ridiculous, because it sounds like it is so simple, but I really believe it's not simple. It's one of these things that everybody takes for granted, but is so easy to make a mistake on. And I'm not exactly a tech wizard, trust me, but I know enough to be dangerous. So if I could do something that would inadvertently make a document be live, right? Well, how easy is it for anybody to do? That's my point, is that if somebody who really worries about this stuff all the time and who is constantly talking about technology, if I can make a mistake, then it has to be something that is so simple that a lot of people can make.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, it's something that for people that know how to do it, it's easy to take for granted, but it's so, the way Google operates, they want to gobble up all the content they can.
Right.
So if you put something out there, it's in their interest to find it and serve it to people, because they're there to provide content. But it is such a simple thing to do, but it's also such a simple thing to screw up. And so that's where I think it becomes important that when you do something like this, immediately double check your work. So in that scenario, let's say you upload it, right? You then see if you can access it you log out of your website, from your content management system, you log out of your administrator account, and you go online and you see, can I type in this URL and search it? Then you look on your phone, right? And then you ask somebody, a friend who maybe, a couple of friends who don't go to your website regularly, and so that it's not what's called cached on their phone. Yes. So you then ask your friends, hey, can you check on your phone if this is available? Oh, you asked your other friend, can you check on your computer? Just checking in a couple of different scenarios.
That's good.
If it is, then you unpublish and you go back and you check, is there something in my settings of my website that immediately makes everything accessible? You, at this point, call in that person or find somebody like a VA who can add it in, who has the skill set to add it in, and then you publish it. But yeah, just double check after, because you could have, and then the other thing, which I didn't mention earlier, but that you could do is, let's say you want to create several types of content like this over the course of your business growth, which is probably the scenario for most of us. Your business expands, you have more ideas, trends change, you create new gated content. A good way to sort of create sort of a fail-safe against you accidentally making something totally publicly accessible is if you create what is called a robots.txt file.
Aha. I was going to ask you about this.
Now, again, this is something that seems is simple to the people who know how to do it, but if you mess it up, it can be problematic in more ways than one. And so the most streamlined way to go about this is to create sort of a standard URL that you use for content like this. So you might say mywebsite.com/giveaway/ or /exclusive/ and then you would put in the title of whatever that specific ebook or giveaway is. And then what you can do is you or someone more technically savvy than yourself can create or update your robots.txt file and add in a line that tells Google to not search anything that's mywebsite.com/giveaways/ and then in the future you can publish those and Google will know, oh, it has that same URL. I'm not supposed to show anything after that.
Okay, so then that other / would be the name of the actual document. Yes. So everything following this naming convention is going to be protected.
Right. You can think of the slashes as sort of like a file folder system. Yeah. Right. So you're telling Google, ignore this folder of pages.
Right. So the robots.txt file, that is something that you need to go into your hosting provider, right, to create that file in the main file area of your site. Is that right?
Yeah, it may be there. I know in WordPress, there's plugins you can get to add it there. It depends on your host, what sort of platform your website's hosted on. But it's, again, not a difficult thing for someone who's well-versed in doing this to...
Yeah, but notice you said well-versed.
Yes, so you need to find something.
If that ain't you, because I can tell you that ain't me. So if that ain't you, then don't do it, because
don't do it. Yeah,
it's scary. No. I mean, I've been, years ago, I was FTP and stuff, and file transfer protocol, and I would have an anxiety attack every time I tried to do it. So it's very easy to mess something up. You do not want. Because you can't get mad at anybody but yourself, too. Yeah. So that's like, man, I wish I had somebody to blame, but I don't. It's just me. So, so you want to do this as simply as possible, and you don't want to do this if you are not comfortable.
Right. And, I don't know how to say it more emphatically. It is worth, the fee that you will pay someone to work on this for an hour for you, to make sure they set up, hey, here's how these URLs should be structured. I'll add it to the robots.txt, and I'll make sure whatever current gated content you have, you pay someone and say, hey, I'll pay you for an hour's worth of your time. I know this won't take that long. It's worth it to throw money at the problem.
Yeah, $50, give it to them.
It's not big in the scheme of things.
No.
Of your business? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Your business, your aggravation. I mean, what's your stress worth, right? And then if you screw something up, I've had problems where it's taken me hours to fix them, or worse, it's taken me a whole day to fix it. And do you really have a day to blow? I don't think so. So I think that, and believe me, I'm a big DIYer, so I believe I can do anything. But at some point, you've got to go, this is not the best use of my time, and no, I can't do anything. I should really stay in my genius zone, and this ain't it. So
Yeah.
I need to stay focused.
Absolutely. You're just wasting, those creative and mental resources that could be spent on other things. And I feel like for most of us who go into creating a business for ourselves, you're going into it to build the life you want. There's a big element of joy in it. And so it's not worth squandering the joy on something like this. When there's so many people, like I said, like your VA may be able to do it, or she has a friend, or he has a friend. You probably have people within your circle or within your family that know how to do things like this. These experts are everywhere now, and it's a growing field.
Yeah, and if you don't, choose the path of least resistance, and that's so WordPress and using a plugin like Yoast or something that has the ability to flip that no index switch. That's something, we can all click a little radio button and say, okay,
yeah, that's all it is.
So this is part of what you need to think about. And then, of course, at some point you're busy enough that, hey, I'm not clicking any radio buttons. You're doing it. So I think that's part of the thought that needs to happen, that what's the best use of my time? Do I easily understand this? And I hope that my goal in covering this was to give people enough of the basic understanding that they would then go, right, I got it, and I'm having somebody else do it.
Yeah,
I understand it. Because I'll tell you, I think that's a big problem. That's a big part of this issue. And again, back to, I've been trying to cover this topic for a year. So when I'm looking for an expert to interview, I will, if I specifically know I want to have that person, I'll reach out to that person and I'll make the pitch, right? But if I don't know who I want, or it doesn't matter to me who I have, I will put out a call on social media and I'll say, hey, who's an expert in this? I have to tell you, I've had people volunteer to be an expert in this, and they're not an expert in this. So you have to understand the lingo of whatever it is that somebody is going to present themselves to be an expert in. Because that's good interviewing, right? Is making sure that you really are able to do the things you say you can do.
Yeah, and I think there's two sides to that coin, right? Knowing the lingo presents you to the person that you're looking to hire to help you with this as someone who's savvy enough to know what they're talking about, so they can't hose you on costs or things like that. But it also, like you said, enables you to make sure that person knows what they're talking about. If they can converse and you say something, then they go off and geek out about it, that's a good sign. Something like this, unless you have some sort of massive site with tons of gated content, if you're saying, I just need a robots.txt file set up, I know the types of pages it needs, and here's the list of pages that need that no index tag added, they should say, oh yeah, that's not a big deal. Like, I can do that.
Got it.
If they're scared at all, just go with someone else, maybe use them for another project, right?
Yeah. I think that's well said. So it really is a matter of understanding what you're asking, understanding about how long it should take, what kind of skill level it should take, and then recognizing if that's something that you can handle on your own and you can easily learn, right? I'm pretty familiar with WordPress, so I remember when I discovered the no index tag, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed this. So but if there's no shame there. So I think you also want to be comfortable with saying, I understand this and I don't understand it, and making somebody explain it in a language that you really do understand. So that's part of working with the right professionals as well. So this has been great, Amelia. Is there anything else that you would that you want to share or tell people to watch out for, keep in touch, to think about?
The only other thing I would think about, I think for most people, you're interested in, building up that email list. One other option in regards to gating content is if you want to just gate part of a page. So I think where that becomes interesting is, let's say you've got a piece of content like the glossary we were talking about earlier, and you have the entire glossary on a blog page or on a URL. but you only show the first half. There's plugins that you can get that allow you to lock the content behind a social sharing wall. So this would be if you wanted to drum up business for something, or maybe you want more people to share the giveaway. In those scenarios, you could add something that says, like us on Facebook, or tweet out a message about this awesome glossary, and then it reveals the rest of the page for them. So that's just another option. The other thing that I would say, it sounds like if you're listening to this podcast, you're on board with the value of gated content. I would just reiterate, one of the things that I love about gated content is that it's just basic psychology. People like the idea of getting a free gift, and also people like having their expectations met. So when you have that opt-in form saying, hey, I'm going to give you great content, I'm going to give you good advice, let me help improve your business, or whatever your value proposition is, and then people fill out the form and are immediately presented with a gift establishing that, it exceeds their expectations and makes them feel good already about what you're offering.
Yeah. And there's a whole psychology around putting together the opt-in gift. I have done a past episode, and I'll have that in the show notes as well. But the point is that it needs to be really high value, and it should be something that is also very targeted. So you're dancing this line of attracting people who want to become members of your community, but you're not attracting so many people that you've just got this glut of tire kickers on your list, right? Because having a big list is great, but not if they don't do anything, or that they really aren't interested in engaging with you. So, I think we're all coming to the realization that smaller to a degree is better when they're engaged and active members of your community. And I had used that strategy of revealing some of the content, and then you have to opt in for the rest, with a past client, and he loves it. He's loved the result gotten him. So we had a PDF of, I think it was 10 mistakes or 10 tips, 10 something that had to do with his specialty area. But I wanted to balance this. He needs SEO juice with, he wants to build a list, of course. So we had open the first 3, and then you had to opt in for the rest. And while his opt-in numbers are, of course, low, they have a very high conversion rate. So, because then at the end of the document, it says, so call and schedule a conversation, or that sort of thing, consultation. And he has a high percentage of people who will opt in, get the document, and call pretty quickly to schedule that conversation. And then he's an awesome salesperson, so because he delivers a great service, so he's able to close a large percentage of them. So for the right content, the right person, that is a super strategy.
That's awesome. That's great. That's a wonderful case study to share. I mean, it's a perfect example of, we're always being told you want to show people, not tell people. That's exactly what that sort of strategy does, is I'm showing you the value that I provide.
Yeah, and I think it's a little used strategy, and I think we all know how many times we've opted in and gotten something that was crap.
Yes,
to be honest with you, right? Yeah. So, or we've gone, I could have written this myself, So I think, giving people a little sneak preview. Again, buying is all about trust, so it helps them go, all right, well, this really was good. Okay, I'll get the rest of it. So, awesome. All right, great. Amelia, it's been fantastic. I loved having you. I appreciate your time and patience in sharing this information in bite-sized chunks so it makes sense for people. Love the idea of going with the simplicity of keeping it on your website. That's one of those V8 moments. Absolutely. And so we're going to have in the show notes, we'll have information about, of course, HostGator. They're my hosting provider. Actually, the original episode I did with HostGator was one of my opening episodes, and it's in my top 10. So,
yes, we saw that last week. Yes,
HostGator, very special to me. So thanks again, and loved having you, and I will keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciated the opportunity to help demystify this for your audience. So,
You're welcome.
yes, please keep in touch and I'm available.